Today is Tuesday, August 6, 2024. It is 4:30 p.m. Is there a motion to call the meeting to order?
So moved.
I'll second. All those in favor?
Aye.
This meeting will be audio and video recorded. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Is there a motion to call the public hearing to order?
So moved.
I'll second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Mr. Kelly, do we need a roll call vote?
Yes.
Mr. Gasper, roll call.
Yes.
I'm a yes. Public hearing is open.
And announce the
Petition MA 2024-40 from Verizon New England Inc. and N-Star Electric Company doing business as Eversource Energy proposing to place new facilities, pole 104/55.5 on Middle Road. Install one joint-owned mid-span pole 104/55.5 on east side of Middle Road, which will be approximately 865 feet southwesterly from the center line of Paris Lane. The new pole will be installed in line with and approximately 86 feet south of existing pole 104/56, and approximately 106 feet north of existing pole 104/55. The installation is being requested by Eversource to support the existing pole line and to keep the wire at a safe height over driveway of the property at 284 Middle Road.
We have somebody from Eversource, if it's being proposed by Eversource.
It's Verizon petition, we're here to support.
Okay.
Happy to speak to it.
Just introduce yourself if you don't mind.
Absolutely. Don Bonner with Verizon. I trust you have the map with you. I just came from the site, literally 20 minutes ago. The measurements are pretty close to exact, what you see there. It's a really good rendition of what you see in the field. The stake was there. It's been removed probably by somebody by hand who wanted to park there. They pulled it out and put it on the rock wall, but there was a stake in place. And I can see that the wires are, if they want to get trucks back there, they need to lift these wires up, so it makes sense why it's being requested. Other than that, what you see is pretty accurate.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Mr. Gasper.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I went over, I read through this, the description of this, and then I went over it, although I'm not trying to measure at 800 something feet from the center line of Paris Lane. I do know past practices, you try to set poles on the property lines, right? And that property line is sitting right alongside of that individual's driveway. I happened to speak with the resident that owns that property at 284 Middle Road, and he indicated to me that he couldn't make it tonight from his notice, for the abutters notice, and I don't see anybody else here that's an abutter for that notice, but he said he has no reason to believe why that needs to occur. And I just told him, quite honestly, I did have this with me. I said it's being requested by Eversource to support the existing pole line and to keep the wire at a safe height over the driveway. So that wiring's been there for 50 years, never been an issue with that resident, according to the resident, and he has no idea of why you would want to put a pole on the side of his driveway and make it more difficult to get in and out of his driveway. And again, he couldn't make it here tonight, so I wouldn't want to take any action tonight. I just want to know simply if it's being requested by Eversource, why all of a sudden now is that request being put in when those two poles have been supporting that wire infrastructure for the last 50 plus years.
Well, I applaud you for doing your due diligence and speaking with the person. As to the exact why, do we have any engineering purposes as to why?
We're doing Jessica Alvin, Eversource. How are you doing?
Good, how are you?
There's a large project that's going on along from here down to Fairhaven, down to Marion, with the replacement of holes that we have going along that way. And a couple of these petitions have been submitted, and they were held until September 17th.
Mm-hmm.
This is just one of the poles that needed to be put in as support along the way for those other replacement poles as well.
Gotcha.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Mr. Gasper?
So we've never been notified that's been brought to my attention. I was the previous chairman of this board, and it's never been brought to my attention that there's an upgrade of facilities and wires going down Middle Road. We were discussing the power station on Wing Lane, and I understand the solar fields and all that, and that's what all the double poles are on Wing, Hathaway, and Main Street heading northward before, right, is to support the infrastructure. But there's never been any dialogue, at least that I'm aware of, is to more infrastructure, more double poles down Middle Road for anything being done there as far as that Marion, Fairhaven upgrade. So I don't know where that miscommunication lies, but it surely hasn't been discussed with town officials of town of Acushnet about how the future of that looks like, right? It'd be nice to give notice to our residents of what is going on in the town of Acushnet. We know that that side is a lot to do with solar fields in the power station for the grid for Eversource over off Wing Lane, but there's been no discussion of anything happening off the Middle Road corridor. So
There's been a couple of petitions that came into this town that have been.
not for Middle Road, it's all Wing Lane over there. There's 2 petitions that are outstanding for Wing Lane pole
Yeah.
settings, and that's it. Nothing's come from Middle Road. So Wing Lane's on that side of town, right down this road over here off Hathaway.
Okay,
And Wing Lane dives over there, and your power station is in back of the PJ Keating facility, and you access it from Wing Lane, which is a couple of miles that way, and Middle Road's a couple of miles that way. So I don't know of anything or any discussion that's taken place of any kind of system upgrades from that power station on Middle Road, and how many more double poles we're gonna have, quite honestly, in the town of Acushnet. We've been continuing the poll hearings because of the double poles that are on that side of town where they've been snapped off and left with giant splinters, and I talked about young kids whacking their head, falling off a bicycle. It's an unsafe condition for any resident, let alone a young child. And I know some poles have been removed, but there's still several poles that have not been removed.
okay. And I do understand that Anthony Bello is supposed to be in contact with you, or has been in contact at some point in time, and will on this issue as well. I will get back to him in regards to that. I know that the double pole issue has been an issue that they are trying to settle with Verizon going out and removing those. But
They've gotten rid of a couple, like I said, ma'am, but they haven't gotten rid of all of them. And some of those poles have been sitting straddled to another pole for well over a year,
Yeah.
right? It's not the double poles that you're putting for infrastructure upgrades, it's car accidents of things of the like, whatever reasons why, and they chop them off. Some have been blistered from car accidents, and they're unsafe.
unfortunately, we can only communicate that with Verizon. Verizon
Yeah.
is, you know,
I understand that, but it was supposed to be a collaborative effort between Verizon,
we can only communicate
Eversource,
with them.
Comcast, and things of the like, and we have some fiber optics up there that we would have to deal with. If it's part of the larger infrastructure for Eversource, then they should be paying for our fiber optic cable to be moved as well.
I have no idea about
Right.
that, but that.
We'll
like I
take
said,
that up with Eversource, that's what I'm talking about. It needs to be a much bigger discussion with town officials before we keep having Verizon coming in every month or every few weeks doing a petition for poll hearings that we're just not gonna approve. Doesn't make any sense, right? It's the definition of insanity. So somebody needs to come in and speak to town officials and give us a game plan on what the plan really is, and really start taking action on getting rid of double polls before, quite honestly, at least I'll speak for myself, allow any more double polls.
And
Or
I'll
additional
agree
polls.
with that. Simply because of the fact that since we've gotten our initial petitions for the last 3 polls, we've asked for a simple communication between Eversource, Verizon, to give us some kind of timeline when the double poles will be removed. And it took, I want to say, 2 to 3 meetings of bringing up a pole directly in front of Town Hall that was, like Mr. Gasper said, splintered and potentially dangerous right in the middle of the sidewalk. It's finally gone, but it took somewhere along the lines of 5 to 6 months to do it. So in general, until we get an active plan on how we're going to address double poles and broken poles, the town of Acushnet isn't going to accept us authorizing any more poles until we have some kind of plan in place. And that's the big part. And Anthony has been in communication with me ultimately it really falls on Verizon to do a better job at addressing the town and coming to us and letting us know what's happening.
I can tell you this right now, this, when the gentleman does come to the next, when we can, I'm gonna take a wild guess that this will be continued to, but I'll bring this map, because I didn't have this map when I spoke with the gentleman that resides at 284, the property owner that resides there. I can tell you this, when he sees that pole on that property line, he's gonna have an issue to that. So whatever you folks need to do to maybe work with that property owner and say, okay, we won't place it right there on the property line, we come down 3 feet. I don't know what the solution is for that resident, but I did have a conversation with him, and I said, my best guess, looking at where that pole is and that pole is, get somewhere near the center line, and I know they usually do it on property lines, that's where the pole's gonna go. And he goes, oh, my dead body. And I said, okay, just letting you know. And sure enough, now that I looked at a map, it's exactly where I said it would go. So that's a problem. And I will give that property owner this map.
Does he, since you've spoken with him, and I haven't, I actually tried while I was there, and I just got some dude who worked up back. Would he prefer it be moved over like 5 feet, like away from the property line? Is he worried about sight lines?
I won't try to speak for him, I just told him that if it was my best guess, that's where the pole would go. No one past practice where Verizon sets poles, I know they always try to do it on a property line, right?
Sure, yeah.
So I said, that's my best guess, looking at the existing 2 poles. He said, I don't understand, I didn't request the wires are in the way, they've been like this my whole life. And I said, understood. So I don't know why Eversource is making the request. It specifically says in this, the installation is being requested by Eversource to support the existing pole line and to keep the wire at a safe height over the driveway at the property. Well, that wire's been like that, again, 50 years. Why all of a sudden now, safe height over a driveway?
No, it's nearly a 200-foot span, and it's just speaking from experience, they sag over time. So if you want to make sure it stays, and you want to make sure it's at a safe height, I'm not speaking for Eversource right now, I'm speaking for what I've seen in the past. Putting it over, even if you move it 5 feet over, so you're not worried about his sight lines, it can stay up there at a nice safe height, and you can put the pole.
Yeah, so the problem with that comment, sir, with no disrespect, is a lot of poles that are 200 feet apart. Some like in my neighborhood are 210, because I've actually measured them with a wheel,
No,
right?
I get that.
So if you're
It's
doing
not
it
the
for
best.
one, why aren't you doing it everywhere else?
Do you want us to bring more poles?
Well, he's asking you a question, on
Sometimes
it's the
why is
equipment on
this
the
one
poles.
justifiable
Yeah.
while others aren't?
Yeah, no, and I'm
That's
just
exactly.
judging the recent conversation, you probably don't want a lot more poles in town.
Correct.
We don't love to put them in, they're very expensive to bring them to bear, so, you know, somebody must have felt, some engineer must have felt there was a purpose for this, and, you know, I'm just trying to bring that to your attention, so.
I'll leave that to you, Mr. Chairman, to contact Anthony and find
Yeah.
out why this request is being put over this, at this particular.
Yep, I'll reach
Spot.
out to Anthony to set up an internal meeting with Mr. Kelly and myself, and we'll sit down and really work on a game plan on how we're gonna reach out and resolve all the questions we've had for multiple months and seem to not be able to get an answer for.
Doesn't make a lot of sense what's going on with the utility infrastructure. We have a lot of poles that are either leaning this way dramatically, leaning that way dramatically. They actually look like they're gonna fall over at any given time. And then with the 2 poles that we're talking about now, that are both in good shape and the wire is pretty straight, not sagging, not stretched or anything like that, we wanna put a pole there. But we have numerous poles throughout town that look like they're just gonna fall over, and I can guarantee you this, one good hurricane and there'll be a majority of poles that come down, because they're awful. I've never seen poles leaning at 30-degree angles. We have them here. But yet we want to put one where it's not really necessary, instead of fixing the ones that are leaning at 30 degrees. Doesn't make any sense. Some of them actually shape like that, and they're old as hell. Don't understand what this engineer was doing when he was driving down the street, but I can give him other places to drive down the street and say, that pole really looks like it needs to be replaced. So,
Get 'em
I don't know
raised.
what the bigger picture is, if this is just the start of, you know, a bunch of poles being put down Middle Road. That's what we need to know, not piecemealing it. I don't know when we continue into, but I would make a motion to continue to September 17th whatever time we postpone the other ones, is it 4 PM?
Did we say 4 or is it 4:30?
I think it, give me a second, I'll look.
4:30.
Yeah, it was-
No, it'll postpone till, continue till all other,
yeah, because there
Yeah,
are already
we-
two,
we-
there's
we-
already two
We
sitting
gotta
on
do
the
it to a
17th.
date and time certain.
Yeah,
So let's get the date and time certain. I know it's September 17th, because I did the original one. Just
I-
don't know
I
if
did
it's
the
4
second
PM or 4:30.
I think it's 4:30.
5 PM.
It's 5 PM?
Yeah, the other ones are at 5. It
Make
says
a
on
motion to
board.
continue this poll hearing till September 17th at 5 PM.
I'll second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So,
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
maybe you should inform the public about the water main break.
Oh, yes. Just in case anybody's watching this, there is a water main break on Westland Street. Water should be shut off by this point. DPW is working hard and fast to resolve the issue. But if you do notice you don't have water, that is why. We did send out a reverse 911. We've posted on all social media. But if you do have any questions, that's what happened. There was a water main break on Westland, and we are working to resolve it. Okay. Motion to adjourn?
so moved.
Second, all those in favor?
Aye.